Hello. Now, I've been featuring so many DDs and cruisers as of late, so I figured it was time to feature this weird looking battleship, the Tier 9 IGN battleship, the Izumo. A ship I've always considered to be quite strong, especially in its current state. I still consider this ship to be very strong. Then again, there are few bad battleships in this game. Honestly, pretty much all battleships from tier 5 onwards are pretty damn amazing. But regardless, today I'll be featuring the Izumo. I don't have the range upgrade, I don't have the engine upgrade, and I'm only running the B hull, so I got a pretty horrid rudder shift since I don't have the C hull yet. The C hull reduces rudder shift by like 6.3 seconds, from 26 seconds to 19.3. Neither is good, but it would be significantly better than what I have now. Regardless though, the matchmaking is of course the pretty common one, tier 10. Most of the time that's what you'll end up facing in the Izumo. You might get lucky at times and get top tier against others, but most of the time you're probably going to be facing tier 8 to 10 matchmaking. So get used to it is the short story. Oh, Neptune pops up. Royal Navy cruisers are of course the juiciest target, but I think my shells are too flat. Yep. My shells are too flat and he gets just into cover behind the island before I can shoot, so I miss. Turning out, and I'm gonna start kiting away because, well, you're not very well armored in this ship at all. I popped the spotter plane. Now the reason I run the spotter plane is to shoot ships in smoke. If you have seen my Nagato ranked commentary, you know that I use this trick very often to focus ships that are smoked up. Because it allows you to better pinpoint the the vertical distance, and makes it easier to shoot smoked up cruisers. He stopped shooting though when I finally, oh there he is, kinda can see where he is. I'm gonna see if he shoots one more time. He was around here. I'm very tempted to shoot. Oh, there he is. I think he might be moving in the smoke, so not necessarily gonna hit him here. I think they've seen the New Orleans that is sneaking up and they're afraid of the radar, so they will be fleeing. Now the Izumo has some issues with the Royal Navy AP that gets spammed, and with HE in general. The reason here is it has only 32mm armor, coating pretty much the entirety of its hull. And what this means is that IFHE shells from ships like Kotoso Mogami and Donskoy, all of these deal massive damage because they can hit you pretty much anywhere except the turrets, and they will get penetrations, and that deals a lot of consistent heavy damage. In fact, with my Mogami I love shooting Izumos because you can get those juicy 8k volleys with pure HE, or even 10k volleys if you get really lucky. Neptune, I spot him leaving the smoke. He's going for a turn. I wait. Yep, he's going for the turn. I use my spotter plane to adjust exactly where he is turning, and I fire just before the spotter plane runs out. You always want to wait until they commit to the turn, and then you pull the trigger, and well, this Neptune sails right into those shells and gets devastated. That's of course one of the reasons he goes, what the fuck, he doesn't really understand what happened there, because he thought he was safe, but you're never really safe from any sort of battleship. And that's of course one of the reasons why I never consider this ship bad. I'm making a joke of course, the EU versus Russia clash where EU lost to Russia. I'm playing on the NA server though, so he's probably a bit confused since he has no idea who I am, since my NA name is still a renamed user. Anyway, the Izumo's guns are fantastic. Yes, they have the usual battleship dispersion issues, and yes, it's sometimes very awkward to use the third turret because of its placements. You have to give a lot of broadside, which is not always recommendable, but the shells deal a lot of damage. They have good velocity. I mean, it's battleship. That's the thing. There's no such thing really as a bad battleship, especially one with 9 guns of this caliber. It's just, you can deal so much damage. Turrets turns, I wait for the turn, pull the trigger, only 12k, but still, I mean, we are, what, 5 minutes into the game, we've already gotten rid of one of their cruisers, over 60k damage. My team, for some reason, is pushing through A, which is of course not a very good decision. I personally want to push more towards B, but this is a very common thing you see in random battles. Your team very often, when they push through one of these flank caps, instead of pushing towards B afterwards as they should, they instead sail into the enemy base. And well, I mean, you could be, of course, it could be worse. You could be the Bismarck that's on E1, which is completely out of position and can't shoot anything. But in general, though, this is a common thing you kind of have to get used to. I can't push B alone, but I can at least threaten and kind of hang around between A and B, so I'm not as useless as the rest of my team when it comes to trying to contest and push B. Spotting a Minotaur, obviously a very juicy target if I could hit him. Atago is going to glide behind the island. You might notice I'm fading away from vision quite often. Like, for example, now no one can really spot me, and that's because I run Concealment Expert. I love running Concealment Expert on pretty much all my battleships, because I consider the biggest strength any battleship has is its opening volley. I tapped M there to get a bird's eye view of where this Atago is going. Now, as I said, the biggest strength I consider battleships is the opening volley, and being able to open up from stealth and completely surprise the enemy is one of the greatest strengths. And that's why I like Concealment Expert on all of them, even tier 10 ships, because, well, if Cruiser sees you, he's going to be keeping an eye on you. He's going to be avoiding giving you too much broadside. He's going to be paying attention to you. Same thing with battleships, honestly, any ships. But if you're undetected, you got this. They only have the 8 seconds. You see 8-second travel time. They have 8 seconds to react before your shells land. And on some cruisers, that's not nearly enough. And that's why I love the stealth build, because, well, you can catch them off guard like that, and that's what makes it so powerful. And even though the Izumo has awful stealth, you can only get 14.5 km concealment with Concealment Expert, the stealth module, and the camo. It's still, in my opinion, worth it. And not to mention, you want to be using I use the same build on both the Amagi that comes before and the Yamato that comes after, so you save yourself having to do any respecking or wasting money on modules you don't need. I do run the 3 million reload module, of course, which is why the guns reload so quickly. It's on IGN battleships, by far the best module you can get. I don't run it on the Montana because or the Iowa because I like the better dispersion on those, but that module isn't available for IGN ships, so hence the difference. Lexington in the open, standing still, obviously a juicy target. He does, however, accelerate just as I pull the trigger, and I don't really get the best hits on him. Now, the Izumo is pretty trollish to Citadel. In general, you want to avoid giving too much broadside, but the only ship that I found that really consistently Citadel's Izumos, in my experience, is the Yamato. The rest kinda struggle, because you have a certain amount of turtleback. It's not a lot of turtleback, and it can get overmatched at very close ranges, and at long ranges you can bypass it. But the armor seems just trolly enough that yes, you eat penetration damage, but you will rarely actually eat citadels, which is of course very different to the Iowa, for example, which is insanely easy to citadel, because any sort of broadside in the Iowa results in multiple citadels. Having so many turrets in the front as well, having 2 turrets in the front means that if you are being focused heavily, you can angle completely in and you can still use 66% of your firepower. Like this Iowa, this sort of broadside, I should be able to punish this, but of course it comes down to dispersion at this point. My aim, I think I shot a bit too far to the front, but still got. Oh no, it hit the barbette and I got 2 citadels. I would have had a better luck going for the citadel that's underneath the smokestack. I think I could have gotten more citadels than just 2, but he was moving slower than I expected. But that's the Iowa, for example. Every time you give broadside in that, you get hit. I popped the spotter plane since the Minotaur is smoked up and is trying to harass us. Let's see, my dispersion is not good though. Yep, lands all over the place. I do have him fairly well pinpointed thanks to the spotter plane. So of course he's shooting me, and that's something you need to get used to. I can land one hit, but it's no Citadel. That's something you need to get used to in the Izumo. HE spammers, Royal Navy, they all love shooting you. Because of that thin armor, it makes you such a juicy target. That one shell scared him though. That one spotter plane shell scared him enough that he stopped firing, and he's probably fleeing. So even though you might not always kill them off with the spotter plane, just landing a hit, sometimes a Citadel, sometimes just a pen, can be enough to scare them. Like, oh shit, he's actually shooting me. I can't stay here. Better run away. And as you can see, the Minotaur is fleeing. He did not want to stick around for that. Two ships spamming me. Once again, the usual HE spam. And the carrier going for me as well. Right now I'm running two forms of fire prevention. One from the module and one from the captain perks. This both reduce it by 15%, which is pretty damn nice. I think a normal fire deals 18% of your total health, and I think with two 15% reductions you get it something around, was it 13-40%, I can't remember how they stacked, but it reduces the fire damage significantly. Ultimately though, if I had a 19-point captain, I would go for fire prevention instead of, I just said fire prevention, but I meant basics of survivability. If I had a 19-point captain though, I would go for that, because people love shooting HE at you, and being able to reduce the damage in some form at least is very useful on the Izumo. Hyper, trollish armor of course, only overpens, and I don't even get the kill there. Once again, Turpits at this range, I'm not really too worried. I am turning away though, because I don't want to get torped for no reason. Once again, I'm running the B hull here, not the C hull, so 26-second rudder shift means you're not very good at dodging torps. You're not very good at dodging anything really, so I kind of like keeping a bit of a distance from them at this point. I might get more brawly if I get when I get the C hull, and maybe when I get the engine upgrade. But this Izumo isn't really that much of a brawler. The Amagi is a brawler. The Izumo, because of the turret placement and in general because of how large and clumsy it is, you kind of want to hold the mid-range. You don't want to sit super far back and snipe, and you kind of want to be in the middle range. It does expose you to things like HE spam of course, but that's just life as a battleship. And well, you should be in positions where you can go behind islands, or if you run this concealment build as I can, you can maybe just disappear from vision. The game is about to end, so I go for a YOLO. We have 999 points, so I go for a YOLO volley expecting the game to end, but they actually kill off one of ours. That prediction was actually fairly good, but battleship dispersion affects everyone, including the Izumo. Still though, if you're having issues with the survivability on the ship, you shouldn't sit far back and snipe. That affects your own damage too much, and that affects your own utility on the battlefield. You should be able to be in the front, well, not in the front lines, but fairly close. You see, I have a couple cruisers in front of me, but I'm right behind them, able to give fire support. And you should be in these positions. Yes, you can be shot at, but use island cover, use your concealment, use various different ways to disengage if need be. But this was just a first game for the Izumo, since once again I haven't played the ship in ages. I have to confess, I have not touched the Izumo in a long time, and I just bought it on my NA account, which is why I have no upgrades or anything on it. Oh well, I have the B hull, that's pretty much it, and I'm lacking everything else. So I'm gonna be leveling up this captain a bit, or well, leveling up the ship a bit and getting it fully upgraded, and then I'll see if I can make some additional Izumo commentaries, because I know a lot of people still struggle with this ship, even if I consider it very strong. The game ends 189k damage, not that special for a tier 9 battleship, but I mean, it was still an overall pretty good game considering how short it was. 16.3k XP and 4k free XP. That's of course I'm running the flags that I'm getting from the Bismarck missions. I like running them with my daily win because it gives you these massive rewards, which makes any good game feel that much better. Team score wise, 2.4k base XP, which is pretty good. Could have gotten perhaps some more kills, but that's just the way it goes. Still, for a battleship game, or well, for a pretty much stock Izumo, B-hull Izumo, I'll take it happily. Detailed report, potential damage only really 1.4 million, and I didn't really take that much damage this game. I'll see if I can get some more tankier games where I eat more damage available. Of course, I did eat a lot of AP shells if you look at the damage received, and that's probably the Minotaur and the Neptune, both who instantly focused me, and of course that's because of the armor. People love focusing the Izumo. But this was my first Izumo vid. I'll try to feature additional ones as I get my ship more upgraded, so instead of running around with a half stock ship, I'll have the full experience, so to say. Anyway, I might as well show my recommended build for now. Right, as usual, I will start off with the modules. Now, I have, since I made and played that game, I have since then gotten the C hull. So obviously the route I would take for upgrading is get the B hull first for the increased AA and the increased health, and then get the C hull as soon as you can for the increased AA. But more importantly, the C hull also gives you better rudder shift, so you don't have to endure the rudder shift I had in that game, which is 26 seconds. When you get the C hull, you actually get 19.7, which you can enhance it further with the rudder shift if you so feel. Consumable wise, get premium damage control at least. The difference between cooldown is so massive. Follow it up with premium repair if you can afford it. I highly recommend it though, especially for tier 9 ship. I like the spotting plane for obvious reasons, shooting Royal Navy cruisers, and in general getting some additional reach, especially since I won't be getting the range. I think I'll get the range upgrade last. I'll get the speed first and follow it up with the range upgrade. Upgrade wise, main armaments mod 1, followed by aiming system for better dispersion, followed by faster reload, and damage control system 1, and at this point I'm using damage control system 2. Now, I kind of like the idea of you running the reduced rudder shift, because 20% is quite a lot out of the 19.7 we have now. Especially when I had the B hull, it would have been very tempting, and it's still quite tempting since we could cut it down by what, about 4 seconds, so a 16-second rudder shift instead. The problem is, however, that the Izumo is a very juicy target for any HE spammer. The reason for this is that it's coated in 32mm armor everywhere, and this means 150 to 155mm guns with IFHE penetrate this consistently. So everyone enjoys spamming HE on the Izumo for this reason alone. So that's why right now I like the reduction in fire extinguishing, or reduction in fire duration, because it reduces the amount of damage you at least take from the fires. And of course concealment, so we get the stealth down to at least 14.5. It's not still a good stealth, I mean it's still awful stealth, but without it you just get spotted across the map, and you kind of don't want to be spotted across the map in the Izumo because, well, as I said, Kutuzovs and such love shooting you, as do Zaos and pretty much everything. Captain perks wise, priority number 1 is preventive maintenance. It's questionable how much you'll use it, but honestly I hate losing my engine, and there really are few other good options. The only other options would be the direction center, but honestly I rarely find myself needing the second spotter plane, especially since I do run spotter plane. So ultimately there's a lot of bad choices here. You never really switch to HE, so there's no point for expert loader. Priority target is kind of pointless since you're a battleship, so ultimately I find preventive maintenance the most useful. Now the turret traverse on the ship is pretty damn bad, which is why I prefer getting expert marksman first. Once you have expert marksman, follow it up with superintendent, follow it up with concealment so you don't get shot across the map. Then I get adrenaline rush, and finally vigilance. And at this point, actually before vigilance I'd probably get, before vigilance I would absolutely get some additional fire prevention in the form of basics of survivability, and then you can get adrenaline rush and vigilance. The reason, ultimately though, I wouldn't actually go for basics of survivability. If I had a full 19-point captain, I'd get fire prevention instead of basics of survivability, because I think reducing the amount of fires you can have is more important, and I think it will be more useful on the Yamato as well, which likes to get HE spammed quite a lot. But that's for when I have a 19-point captain. Until then, I prefer having at least some sort of reduction, once again because the Izumo is very prone to that HE spam. And of course, you get torped, so vigilance is great, adrenaline rush for when you get low HP. So ultimately I would pretty much use this build, just replace basics with fire prevention if I had a 19-point captain. But that's for the future, and I will be returning to the Izumo since I'm going to be leveling it a bit, getting the upgrades and such, so I don't have to deal with running around with a B-hull ship. Well, C-hull in this case. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it.